Hey there, YouTube family. Dr. K here, back for another video. Welcome to my channel, Winning in Education. And as you know, or maybe you don't, on this channel we talk all things winning. So whatever winning means to you, whether you're new to education and you're just starting out, you're in education and you're looking to move out of the classroom and move into a teacher leadership or school principal position, or winning in education could also mean you're thinking about leaving the education field behind altogether, maybe just leaving K-12 behind and moving into something a little different. So today we're going to talk about that something different. So as you know, I've talked about moving into higher education from K-12, and one of my videos, and I'm looking for the exact title, it was back in January. I had a video entitled What I Wish I Knew Before Moving from the Principal's Job to the Professor Job. And it was based off a question from one of my clients who was thinking about leaving her principal job, moving into higher education. She wanted to be a professor and teach teachers and all of that. And so she booked a call with me and we kind of walked through it. So she has since decided to stay in her role as school principal, and I'm excited for her. We kind of worked through it and she felt like that would be the best thing for her. And that got me to thinking. It brought up all of these old feelings, these questions that I've been grappling with and I'm still grappling with. Whether I should return to K-12 or stay in higher ed until retirement. You know how you get to that crossroad and you're thinking either you're going to stay and buckle down, or if you're going to make a change, the change has to happen now, like within the next year or two. So here is a recap about me, Dr. K. For those of you who don't remember, I moved into higher education after working as a school principal. I worked as an urban principal. I worked as a principal overseas. And I often said that working in urban education specifically was like working on the front lines of a war. And you shouldn't really do that for your entire career. You should be thinking about working in some of these higher stressful positions like urban education, or some of these more Title I schools that may be a little difficult for you, or any school actually that we're seeing across the nation. You should be thinking about those positions as shorter stints of time. So no more than, let's say, 5 years. So I got to that mark and I started thinking that this was it. And also it was a health issue for me. I was starting to be super stressed. I think I said in that video, my blood pressure was through the roof. My doctor was giving me all sorts of warning. And so I made the decision to leave K-12 and move into higher education. And I've been here for almost 10 years. But as I've worked in higher ed now for these almost 10 years, I visited a lot of different schools in lots of different states. And I realized something. Not all schools are as high stressed as the schools in which I work in Philadelphia. So not all principals that I have come across are as stressed out as I was. And I typically like to talk to the women principals, right? I want to know what it's like being a woman in that role, because, you know, as women, we have all different sorts of responsibilities in addition to our work, right? So we're mommies, we're wives or girlfriends, or, you know, what have you. We have that whole other life that we have to make sure is functioning. So that's a little different than a man being a principal, because typically when the man is the principal and he has the wife taking care of the home at home, he gets to go home and just kind of relax. Well, that doesn't happen for women. We have to go home and then take off the principal hat and put on the mommy hat or wife hat or whatever hat you have to put on. So I have been very, very conscious about when I'm visiting these other schools, working with my students, or doing observations of principals, walkthroughs of schools, that I talk to the female school leaders and get their perspective. And I have been kind of shocked to realize that, Yeah, not all schools are as stressful as some of the schools I worked in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia and suburban Philadelphia. And so I'm not sure. So the question, one of my friends who's still in K-12, she's back in Philadelphia. She's been overseas for a couple of years as well. Now she's back and she's about to be moving into school leadership. And she has been constantly on me about trying to get me to move back home. Home is Philadelphia for me, and to move back into school leadership. And mainly her reasoning is, of course, she wants me there. And it would be great to be there with friends and family. But her reasoning is money. I'm getting close to retirement. And when I say close for me, that's like 10, 12 years from now. But, I see light at the end of the tunnel. And, I need to be making as much money as I can as I go into retirement so that I can stash money away for retirement. So, what we're going to explore today, that was a long introduction. What we're going to explore today is you guys are going to help me kind of grapple with this question of, do I regret leaving K-12 for higher ed? I'm not sure. So we're gonna go through it. You're gonna help me. You're gonna leave comments. You're gonna listen to me kind of go through my thought process, and you're gonna help me make this decision. So the first question is, do I regret leaving K-12? So I can blanketly say no. I do not regret leaving K-12. I love working as a professor. I love training future principals. I love my 9-month schedule. You guys know I love to travel. I'm always traveling because I have so much time off, and I love teaching. So no, I don't regret moving from K-12 into higher education. And I think another thing that I liked about that transition is because it gave me an opportunity to see other different types of schools and to interact with different types of women leaders across the nation and to kind of hear how they are managing all of the different balls up in the air, how they are managing that work-life balance, which I talk a lot about, how they're doing it successfully. It gave me different perspectives. So no, I don't regret it. Now, having said that, there are things that I do not love about higher education, which I covered in that video. So I talked to you guys about, I do not love that it's not all about teaching. My administrative duties continue to grow and suck the life out of me daily. And that's something I don't love about higher education. It reminds me, quite honestly, about me working in K-12. So I feel like I'm very good at my administrative duties because of my K-12 training as a principal. You had to be very up on your paperwork and you had to have all of these procedures and policies in place, right? So I feel like I'm good at that, but it's not something I particularly enjoy in higher ed because I feel like I'm doing two different jobs. Now, if that was just my whole job, maybe it would be different. So another thing I do not love about higher education, which I noted in that video, is the pay. So in that previous video, I talked to you guys about how my first assistant professor gig was almost 50% less than my principal job. Yes, almost 50%. So as I think about my earning potential over time, I'm never going to be able to close that pay gap. So, which I can track because I still have friends who entered the principalship with me and where they are now in their salary and where I am now with 10 years under my belt in higher ed. There's a huge, huge gap. I'm even thinking, looking at the gap from me being in higher ed for 10 years and some of the starting salaries of even assistant principal, there is a gap there. So I don't really enjoy that pay. And the last thing I talked about that I did not love about being in higher education is that publish or peril mindset. That whole, you have to publish, 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 is real and it's exhausting. And basically, you're not given time during the work day or work week to dedicate to writing. So that's something I didn't know. I thought, my rosy colored glasses and Pollyanna outlook, I thought that there will be times that you say, okay, Friday is your writing day and your research day and you're dedicating it to scholarship. Yeah, that doesn't happen. So you are expected to, as a professor who also runs her own program, so I have dual responsibilities, I'm expected to do my writing, which is a whole another full facet of my job, on my weekends, on my time off. So even though it's a 9 month, um, that's my report to schedule, right? 9 months on, I have 3 months off. Those summer months, you're running your grants. I still teach summer school, so I can have a little extra money to travel. And you're supposed to be working every day, all day on scholarship. And if you don't do it over the summer, then you will not have time to do it during the fall and spring semester. So I do not like that about higher education. So although I don't regret my decision, yeah, those things I just don't like. So there are 3 things that I am missing though from my old K-12 life. And no matter how much I get to do these things on my job, again, I am training future principals, so I can kind of get some of these things in. It's not quite the same. So the first thing that I miss is that on the ground leadership, instructional leadership work that I have, been used to doing, working with data, working with teachers and students to help them reach their full potential. I miss that teacher-student interaction. I crave that. So I don't really get that. I'm training my students on how to do that, but I don't get that direct interaction with school data and training teachers and seeing students progress firsthand. So I kind of miss that from my K-12 days. I really do miss being in the thick of things with teachers and students. I miss the energy of being in a school building. Whenever I'm visiting my principal candidates, I just did a walkthrough last week of about 4 or 5 schools. And it was just the moment you hit the building and you have the kids going and, coming and going and doing their things, my excitement level just goes up. So I know I'm looking at this probably because I'm 10 years removed with maybe rose-colored glasses, but I do miss being in the thick of things and not just preparing my students to be in the thick of things and do that work. And then the last thing I really miss about my K-12 life, and I'm going to be honest, I miss the salary. I miss that continued earning potential that you have with being in a school district. So you have raises. Higher education is a little different. You get your raises if you don't get cost of living increases, which lately most people have not been getting. Lately meaning 5-7 years you have not been getting. So typically in higher ed, your raises come with your title promotion. So if you go from assistant professor to associate professor, you get a raise. And usually that raise it's not like $10,000. It's not a whole heck of a lot, maybe a couple of thousand. And then you get another raise from associate professor to professor. So your earning potential within the professor track is very limited. Just an FYI, most professors make more money when they're running all of those grants because they can pay themselves to do a certain part of the job while they're running a grant. So you will hear about many professors saying, oh, I have 4 or 5 grants because they have to supplement their income. Now think about that. You are still responsible for teaching your classes, running your program, writing, and now you have this additional grant duty that becomes an additional part-time job. So that's a whole nother video. So I miss the salary from my K-12 life, particularly again, as I look towards retirement in the next 10, 12 years, I need to start putting money away. I need to be able to start, plugging money away and making sure that I'm going to be covered in retirement. So the real questions are, would I return? Or my real question is, would I return to K-12, knowing what I know about how broken the school system is, the things we talk about on this channel? Would I return? I'm grappling with that. I guess that's why we're having this video. But that really would depend on a couple of things. So this is what I've thought about so far, and I would like your input. So in the comment section of things that maybe I have not thought about that I should be thinking about. So the things that I'm thinking about now that would compel me to return is I would have to find the right school leadership opportunity for me. And I'm not even sure I want to be a principal again, maybe an AP job somewhere to kind of ease myself back into that whole K-12 life would be much more helpful for me. So I would be open to an AP position. I don't have to be the head honcho in charge. I can be one of the Indians. I'm certainly fine with that. I would definitely not consider another 12-month position though. If I went back into a school leadership position, it would have to be a 10-month, 10 and a half month. I still have to have some considerable time off to travel. Another consideration for me is I would love an online position. So an online AP position, I would even do an online principal position if I can find it. So I am looking at schools that are online and kind of tweaking my resume. Same thing I do with clients now, tweaking my resume to make myself look more attractive to those recruiters. And I think the online position would help me, in my mind, combat some of the school discipline issues that we talk about on this channel. So maybe that would help me kind of ease back into it, and I wouldn't have all of those discipline issues because we would be online. And then the last thing that would maybe compel me to go back, and I haven't kind of ruled it out, is if I find me an overseas position. So we know the issues that our school system is having in America now around safety. Every time you turn around, there's a school shooting here, there's a school shooting there. Not to say school shootings and issues don't happen elsewhere. You know, we just had one in Brazil where the gentleman wielding a machete came in and killed some kindergartners or little babies. So school issues and safety issues happen everywhere. However, here in America, it's an epidemic. So if I was able to have an overseas school leadership position, and again, I would love an AP position, so I wouldn't have to be the last person in charge of everything, I would consider that. Even though I told my family that I would not go back overseas, I think I can talk them into giving me a break on that. So I think I can say no emphatically now to a traditional school district and brick and mortar school. I mean, it would have to be, the school would have to be outstanding. The district would have to be outstanding. The money would have to be outstanding. And then I just don't know. I don't think I want to be in a traditional setting. There are just too many safety concerns that I have to contend with. This is not 20 years ago. If you're moving into school leadership, you are now a safety officer. Like, you have to be thinking safety all the time, particularly if you're on the ground on site. So I'm not sure that I would consider that. So that's it. Do I regret my higher ed transition? No. I've loved it. I love it. I don't hate my job. I just really, I'm missing a lot of parts about K-12, and if I could find something that kind of bridges that, I would. Is higher ed that perfect dream job that I was dreaming about? No, but again, I don't hate it, so that's a step up. Would I ever return to K-12 and school leadership or even some other type of capacity? Yes, I would. But again, the conditions would have to be right for me. So what do you think, guys? What have I not considered as I grapple with this question? And as I say grapple with, but again, remember, I'm updating my resume. I'm starting to submit just to kind of see what's out there. It's going to be hard. Whenever you transfer from one industry to another, it's hard. Even me coming from K-12 going into higher education, I had to kind of prove myself, because higher education thinks about education one way and K-12 thinks about it another way. So I think it's going to be hard for me to go back from higher ed into K-12 as well. But my fingers are crossed, and if it's meant to be, it will be. But give me some tips of things I should be thinking about that I have not considered. Wish me well in the comments. If you have any openings that you think I would be great for, put them in the comments. I have really enjoyed your interactions in the comments. I take time to respond to them all, and I appreciate it. And thank you guys. Thanks. So don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the comments section. Take care.